Now, hopefully some of you guys are going to be like overly excited. And it's probably not due to the subject, but it's due to the subject being right before lunch. All right, so I'm almost more excited that I'm before lunch versus after lunch, because after lunch you guys probably wouldn't pay attention, you'd nap, and I'd put you to sleep. But before lunch, although you're not really paying attention to me, I do love the fact that I can think that you're paying attention to me, and that is why you're excited. So that's not a problem. But some of you guys might wonder why in the world someone from UPT or myself would be here. My name's Noah Watts. I'm the Tandem Program Director for UPT. I'm also through USPA. I hold every instructional rating that USPA offers. I'm an examiner in all of them but two, to include an ERC director. So though some of there are a little bit of differences between your guys' AFF program and USPA, hopefully some of the things that I'm going to talk about will spark a little bit of not just interest, but ways of thinking or looking at the way you guys are teaching within your own program. Now, I was kind of asking around a little bit prior to as to how many of you all were AFF instructors, and we have, for the most part, everyone here is one or inspiring to be. May I ask with a show of hands, how many of you are USPA AFF instructors? Okay, so we have a couple or few. It's definitely not a problem. Learning a little bit about your guys' program, it was interesting to me, but ultimately there's still a lot of things that are the same. There might be a little bit or a couple of differences, but for the majority, I think we'll be able to work past those. So, obviously, the title, Do What I Do, Not As I Say, that's very controversial because remember, we're dealing with students, all right? And sometimes we want you to do what I say and don't worry about necessarily what I do. The reason why I titled it this way is because as educators or instructors of any kind, you know that we are supposed to be giving that proper example, all right? So sometimes the do what I do is exactly that. We need to show them exactly what it is that we want, whether we are performing that specific task ourselves, whether we're showing it through video or anything, all right? But ultimately, as we go through this entire thing, you're really going to see that you just want to have that clear expectation of what needs to happen. So we're going to ask a couple of questions, all right? Jump number one. They're falling flat as a board. Are they right or are they wrong? Anybody? And the microphone falls on this lovely participant right there. Would they be right or wrong?
It's not a question of right or wrong. What have they been taught?
Okay.
And has the fact that their stable body position relies upon them arching been trained? Has it been practiced? Are they aware? There's a lot of questions to ask about not just are they right or wrong.
Absolutely. But I like how you said a trained, stable position relies on arching. Does it? Does a stable position rely on arching? Because can you fly like this and be stable? Absolutely. So some of these things, and I've been 100% guilty of this in the past, but as I've tried to evolve with education or training itself, sometimes it's the way you present information or even say something. I have been that person. It's like, hey, you're not arching, you're wrong. But are they wrong? No, they're not wrong. You have to give them a reason to want. You have to inspire them. You have to explain to them why you want them to do specifically something. So I like to tell them, it's like, the way you're doing it, I'm not going to say is wrong, but it is not preferred of the position or where you are at in your training. The reason why I want you to arch or have that nice, good boxman, wide, stable position is because that's a good foundation to start on. You know, in the beginning, you're going to see me in front of you. I'm giving you hand-arm signals. I'm flying all around, everything else, and I'm in control, rock solid. You're going to blink and feel like you're out of control, all right? So give them that progression to let them know that, hey, you will get there, but these are the steps. These are the reasons why. And with that, again, when you're demonstrating what they need to do or things like that, it is, or it should be, do as I do, not necessarily what I say. And ultimately, as you start going through, it's kind of both. Maybe a little bit more and do what I say, yes. But again, watch as to how you're saying those specific things of what you want them to do. Jump number two, they reach back, and you have to pull for them. But they do reach back, everything else, but you have to pull for them. Do they pass or do they fail? They pass? Who says fail? Fail? Okay, this is great. Now, this is one of those learning type things that I talk through even with Jeff, all right? And again, I'm not going to say it's right or wrong because a lot of this is dealing off of USPA, okay? And there are a lot of USPA AFF instructors that would say they fail, when in reality, they shouldn't fail because jumps 1 and 2, jump 1, it's a progression. Jump 1, they have to show reasonable stability within 1,000 feet of deployment altitude. Now, some of us as, experienced tandem instructors, you think about that and it's like, well, shucks, I'm in a turbine drop zone. We get at 14,000 feet. That means they can be like, all kinds of crazy from all the way down to 1,000 feet, and then they somehow get good and reach back and deploy, and that's a pass. Some things are left to interpretation, but sometimes you have to ask yourself, are you the reason as an instructor as to why they were all that kind of craziness all the way down? Did you teach them properly on the ground? Were your skills in the air good enough to correct them and give them that proper instruction in the air? So, some of the things to think about. But ultimately, it's their very first jump, right? You have that much time to reasonably get that to them. On the deployment, they have to initiate deployment within 1,000 feet of deployment, the planned altitude. So if there's going to be a question, what is initiating? Is it waving off? Is it reaching back? What is that? But for the USPA side, that would be it. Again, clear expectations, right? Now, I do understand for you guys as well, even in Category C, you guys kind of dock back on, or I do apologize, and I do. Later on, I'm going to go back and forth when it comes to levels, categories, things like that, and it'll give a little bit more of an inline brief description. But level 3, let go jump, right? On the bottom end, you guys dock back on. But how often do you guys dock on? Some of you might dock on in 3 and 4, maybe even level 5. Some of you guys don't if they're, okay. In USPA, in order for them to pass their level 3 or their Category C jump, they have to have a solo deployment, meaning they have to do it on their own. Now, granted, again, there's progression, all right? So like Category B or level 2 jump, they have to have stability within 1,000 feet from exit. So again, we're tightening down the parameters. They still don't necessarily have to pull, but they do have to initiate pull within 500 feet of deployed altitude. So they're making things a little bit more tighter and everything else, all right? So when I pose some of these questions to you guys, I'm not saying that they're right or wrong. Unless you want to say USPA, then I'd have to say you're wrong, in a sense, as a joke. But I want you guys to literally think about the expectation that you're giving to your candidates or your students, and then challenge or question your guys' program as to, well, do I really know what it does say, and what do I need to be teaching? All right, so ultimately, if we can get everyone to kind of just, challenge to the doctrine or challenge to the books, and then also, your SOPs or your standard operating procedures for your specific drop zone or your teaching style, that's ultimately what we're kind of shooting for here. Third question, all right, jump number 3. They have pulled on the previous 2 jumps. Do they need to be taught how to pull? This is before the jump. Do they need to be taught how to pull, yes or no? Most people say not really. I mean, they've been reaching back and pulling, right? So again, I'm going off of USPA, but in USPA, yes, they have to be taught solo deployment. Now, granted, you're going to say, hey, I'm going to teach you how to solo deploy, right? A student's going to be like, whatever, let's go through the numbers, because I've been deploying, right? I've been throwing. I've grabbed the pilot chute. I threw it out exactly how you wanted me to. But you have to give them, again, a reason as to why you need to teach them that solo deployment. Why would be, hey, we're not holding on to you. We're not going to hold on to you. You do not have us for technical stability. And if you look at some of your previous jumps, I might notice that you're dropping a knee. You're, instead of, actually flying that supporting arm and getting that air and making it, symmetrical, you're bringing it in like this, and now it's going to cause you to go down. All right, again, you do not have us to support you, so we're going to go over a couple of things for solo deployment. Again, whether you guys necessarily, in a sense, teach that or not, or it's a requirement or not, these are some of the things that you guys need to think about, or things to add to your teaching toolbox of different reasons or why something's going on. A good, or just an instructor, right, a teacher, anyone can teach, right? They have some information, they follow a slide, and there you go. A good instructor can adapt to their crowd or to their students to be able to help give that information to them to where they're going to, receive it the best. And a great instructor might be one of those that can just kind of look at a person and automatically knows, like, hey, well, this is how I need to, attach this or attack it or whatever. But ultimately, putting yourself in the lowest common denominator, being your student, and explaining things to them how they need to receive it and understand it goes a long way. We're all experienced. We're all, those AFF instructors that deal with a bunch of people in different scenarios. When we say something, we know what we mean. But did your passenger, or not passenger, sorry, tandems, did, your student receive it how you want them to? One of the best ways I can explain that really quick is sign language. I used to love sign language. Don't know it other than like thank you and a couple other things. But think about sign language. When you learn how to do sign language, you're learning it from this perspective, right? But if I know how to do this, right? So this is okay. But to me, this is okay because I can see my fingers and everything else. The okay from your view is completely different. So you almost have to look at it from two views. Proper presentation. I love this. What's this? Don't be scared.
Extend legs.
Legs out, right? What's this?
Pull.
No, it's still legs out, right? But perception and how you perceive something, how you present something is a big deal when it comes to a student. Contrast of background, right? I have a black helmet, black jumpsuit, and black gloves. Come on, man, come on, right? When I could have probably done this and contrast the background makes it, oh, I can see that now. All right? That's why I always wear white gloves, bright white gloves. Doesn't really matter because it's for the student. All right? Clear expectations. Okay? What is it that you want them to do? This is why you should do it, and this is how you'll be evaluated. Not everything that you teach them or show them will have an immediate evaluation, but they need to know where it's relevant and how ultimately they will be evaluated. Now, on the first one, proper example, all right, this is what needs to be done, or SMART, all right, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, timely, okay? Why should you do this? Motivate them, inspire them, tie it into whatever it is they need to do, or possibly that SMART goal that they have, that previous lesson, that previous level, to what's coming up next or what they want to do. You want to inspire them to be able to jump with a family member. Great. Get it on, right? But KISS, all right? Keep it simple and specific. At a minimum, how to advance. That was one of the things I really was kind of hinting towards when I talked about, that level 2 or 3. Did they pass? Did they not? More important of a question, did you explain to them what they need to do to advance? I don't like to say pass or fail because that implies a lot of stress, because they could do a lot of stuff in that jump, but they didn't necessarily finish everything to continuously move on. Or maybe they did a lot on the jump and they're just missing that one thing. It's like, okay, can we add that one thing with that next jump to help them advance so they don't feel like they're not being worked with? Right? They feel like they're wasting their money, or that's all you want from them is money. This is where a lot of times, you as the instructor have that clear expectation. Let them know what needs to be done. Is it something like, hey, you didn't do it on this jump, all right? Maybe there wasn't enough time. Maybe it's a Cessna drop zone versus turbine drop zone. You didn't do it on this jump. We want to do it on the next jump. But if you don't, we are going to have to stay there until it gets done. Again, have that clear expectation. At the end of a jump, a student that has been properly briefed or taught or explained whatever is going to know whether they passed or failed, all right? Because you put out those clear expectations that what you are needing them or wanting them to do. This will also give them a chance if they have questions, because there's nothing worse than miscommunication. Funny story. Talked to Jeff about this. He's like, hey, can you do this? Not a problem. I have no life. I'll talk about days or for days for absolutely nothing. Not a problem, right? But it's like, hey, do you do AFF? He's like going, yes. It's like, you know, USPA, yes. His interpretation was they kind of follow, but you guys don't necessarily do USPA. So I did an entire thing on USPA. And then sure enough, talking to him, okay, that was a little bit of a not exactly on the same sheet of music. We're talking about fruit. He's talking oranges, I'm talking bananas. All right? We're in a book. Unfortunately, you know, his reads one language, mine reads the other language. Same name, though, different language. All right? So have those clear expectations. All right, quick review. This is where you kind of have to use your imagination and bear with me. All right? So I do apologize, but I did add a slide, especially for you kind, wonderful people that aren't judging me because you're smiling because, again, lunch is next. But in USPA, we have categories. That's the primary one. We also do levels, but we have categories, A through H. All right? So if we're thinking about it, A equals arch. All right? That's the primary thing we want them to do. B, so we're going over the basics. C, control is where we're letting go of them. All right? They have to have control. Direction, that's where we're doing the 180s, the 90s, you know, the turns. Evolve, we want them doing their back flips, front flips, you know, barrel rolls or all that kind of stuff. Instability drills. And by the way, any instructor, regardless of what method or federation, that fails someone because they don't do a proper backflip should really be talked to. Because quite frankly, it's not about doing the backflip. It's about getting unstable and stable. How many passengers are, once again, tandems, I apologize, it's the shirt, it really is. If you wear the shirt, you say passenger all the time. How many students have you guys had that were so stressed out over doing a backflip or a front flip? Relax them. Give that clear expectation of what it's really for. Why? Give them the why. All right? It helps them out a whole lot better. And guess what? They're going to have fun doing it. Because at that point, it's like, oh, you mean I just get to get out and fly normal, but just fix myself? Perfect. Not a problem. F, flat track. All right? So we're just starting the track. G, group free fall skills. All right? Jumping with others. And then, of course, we hone their skills. So in category G, that's when they're doing like relative, all right, and then forward and backwards. But in H, that's when we're honing the skills and maybe doing relative and moving forward. So now we're changing and, you know, all that kind of stuff. So you guys know what I'm talking about. Now, just for you guys, because I love you, these are your levels, all right? So level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Now I know for you guys, your 8 is when you guys do kind of like your hop and pops, right? Or your jump out and you deploy. For us, pretty much 8 is the end of method specific, all right? 9 through 12 is pretty much, or actually all the green, all right, if we're still keeping with levels. Self-supervision, and they're kind of like their own pace. But we have them do a 5,000 and a 3,500. In there as well as they have to do a solo. You can't get a license or signed off unless they've done a solo. And some people are actually scared of doing solos. Like, oh, I want to go with the coach. I'm going to go with an instructor. I want to go with this person, that person. One of their checklists of their proficiency card is they have to do a solo. All right? And then, of course, obviously, your group free fall skills is broken down 13 to 15. Hone them is pretty much 16 to 18. And you guys are pretty much, you can get your license at the 18 jumps because you have your plus 10, right? After your initial, then you do your 10. And then you'll do, you know, other things when it comes to like your B license or jump master rate and stuff like that, which I actually really like your guys' program in the sense that you have an identified jump master per. And not anyone's just going to get out doing whatever they want. So that is awesome. But those are, again, some of the differences. But back to kind of what I was doing. We have a full EP review and the harness, obviously. And we want them to land safe. Okay? Review, again, land safe. Loss of instructor protocols change for us. And then, of course, this is where the first bit of formal academics start. Now, it's another difference that we have. You guys have specific coaching for canopy, and then you also have specific times where they learn different things like what do the numbers on the runway mean, all right? How do they spot? Those are kind of after. For us, we teach those, progressionally all the way through. But formal academics don't start until level 3 or category C. But again, the biggest one to start is the loss of instructor protocols. Obviously, on level 1 and 2, hey, if you lose one instructor, what happens? Well, I got the other one, so I keep skydiving. But what happens when they lose both instructors on level 1 or 2? They're supposed to deploy. Level 3, we're supposed to let go of you. So if you don't see us and you are, out to the wear, in control, and relaxed, aka air, all right, continue skydiving until you're deployed altitude. So these are, again, the formal instructions and everything else. D, we have a full EP review back in the harness, all right? And then we emphasize on the emergency procedures for buildings. And then, of course, now, again, because Category C, we started formal academics. Category D is we're specifically having them do tasks under canopy with risers. E, we're going to emphasize on 2 canopies out. And then, of course, canopy-wise, we're finding that sweet spot, academics and practice within the air. Another full EP review, all right, in the harness. And then we also primarily talk about power lines, and then we go into brake turns. Talk about tree landings under canopy. Now we're starting to get more in tune with accuracy. Talk about water landings, and then we get more into front risers. Now here's an interesting thing about this. For USPA, Section 4 in the SIM, the Serious Information Manual, some people call it Skydivers Information Manual, but it doesn't really matter, all right? It's the Integrated Student Program, or the ISP. That's why we can call it categories. Some people might have levels. Some people might do IAD, static line. Some people might do a tunnel program. Some people might do different things. Ultimately, as long as the end outcome is the same, that's what we're looking for. But this is just a guidance for people to go off of, all right? If I'm on a drop zone next to a beach, am I really going to wait for, Category H to do water landings? No, I'm going to kind of bump that up because it might show a little bit more importance within the training for that student. All right? But these are, again, just basic things to semi-think about. How does this result or revert back within your guys' program? How can you just take this thought process and apply it to how you guys use your program, which is a good program. I've had a long conversations even last night with Jeff, and he was explaining a bunch of different things, and we were talking about different things of what's kind of different. I know you guys have like a manual, and then you guys have your instructor kind of manual, and there's possibly a little bit of differences or whatever, and some of it is up to the instructor, which is fine. Some of that is up to whatever drop zone you guys specifically work at as to how you train type things, okay? So again, think about that clear expectation and think about what or how you need to get that information to the student. All right, who are we as instructors? Who are we as instructors, right? We're role models, we're mentors, we're professionals. If you don't see yourself as that, you really need to reevaluate why, one, you're an instructor and who you are as an instructor. 75% of what people see is what they learn and even attempt or do. Okay? Here's the other sad, or reality check to this fact. When you have that, of 75% of what people see, guess what? I'm not talking about the person that's right in front of you. I'm talking about the other candidates or the other students or people that are waiting. They're not dumb. They're adults. How do adults learn? 2 ways. All right? And the first way is by observing. The second way is by figuring out the answer themselves. All right? And without that proper instruction, them trying to figure it out on their own, sometimes doesn't necessarily go out or go over as planned, especially if you were not giving that proper presentation of what you want to do. How are you kind of, you know, living that, that life of an instructor? Are you doing a jump and then, you know, doing something that isn't safe practice on your own jumps? All right? Are you not being aware of, you know, there are people in the plane watching? You get on the plane without having your gear fully on, missing a chest strap, not taking certain safety considerations into effect. All right? Be a role model. Be the appropriate role model. Mentor. Be the person you wish had taught you. We have all had bad instructors or bad teachers. All right? So great, don't be them. We've also had good teachers or good instructors. Be them, or more than that, be a true educator. Be someone that is a student of education. Use the things that you learned from them and go beyond that and help it work better for you. All right? Not everyone's going to be able to do, you know, the same presentation as that same person, but you might be able to add more. All right? Half, if not more than everything that I have is stolen from somewhere else and just kind of made for how I present things. All right? But be the person that you wish had taught you. When I went through the AFF instructor course, okay, and for USPA, you do a category C and a category D. All right? 2 C's and 1 D. And I know your guys' course is a little bit different because you'll do, like, all of them are evaluated up to like 5 or so jumps, and you get your evaluation, and you either a pass or a fail and everything. So I do understand, and I get that there's a little bit of a difference there. When I went through, great, passed the course, right? And it was funny because in the pre-course where, you know, you're practicing and everything else, I got down from a jump. I went, as we're walking in, doing the walk and talk, I asked the evaluator, it's like, hey, scale of 1 to 10, what was that? He's like going, 4 or 5. It's like, okay, if I fail the next jump, I'm not kicked out or anything, right? He's like going, you can fail every single one of these jumps. It's a pre-course, not a problem. It's like, all right, great. On this next jump, on a scale of 1 to 10, I want a 15. And he looked at me and it's like, what the hell? It's like, I want to know the worst possible thing that can happen. That was my best jump because I didn't care and I was just flying my body. I was doing everything that I was taught and I was applying it with no stress, no nothing, give it to me right then and there. Right after that, I went hot, passed the jumps, and that was it. And now I'm an AFF instructor. What was my next question? How do I do AFF? Because I didn't know. All I knew was how to pass a category C, pass a category D, and only when everything goes wrong. All right, so how do I do a category A when everything goes right? It's like, what do you mean the student threw their parachute or pilot chute at 5,500 feet? What am I supposed to do for the next 3,500 feet? Another skydive? I don't know what to do. If I track that long, oh my goodness, I'm going to be like, you know, outside of the wind cone or even into the next, you know, group, whatever. I don't know what to do. All right? So me as a AFF examiner, I wanted to be that different instructor. I wanted to be the person I wish had taught me. And not to say the person taught me bad, no. I passed the course and it was good. But I try to give that more. I try to give them, hey, these are the rules. This is doctrine. This is for the course, and this is real life. All right? I set them up for the most success possible. I let them know what to expect, and I try to do as much things as I can in reality. All right? Am I doing things, you know, stupid things as an acting student that is not reality? No. Because what kind of service am I doing? That's me feeding my own ego. That's not me trying to teach. Okay? However, I do forget my seatbelt when they're getting graded on a Cat C, all right, or a level 3. Let's be realistic. Is a level 3 going to forget their seatbelt or misplace their goggles? Not really. But is a level 1? Yes. Do I get to evaluate them on a level 1? No. I have 3 jumps to evaluate them. So when I'm doing that and some of the things that they might think are not practical to the situation, I inform them, I teach them, I explain to them why I'm doing it, because they have to be mentally prepared to catch it on a level 1, level 2. I don't get that opportunity to do a level 1 or level 2 with them, but I have to give them certain scenarios that they can apply throughout every training jump for that student. So again, be the instructor that you wish had taught you. You are what you repeatedly do, therefore excellence ought to be a habit, not just an act. Aristotle said that. Or somewhere around. I'm sure it's been like a little word here or there, but you guys get the gist. As instructors, as educators, in whatever you're doing, AFF, IAD, static line, tandem, your own children, I'm trying to teach them how to ride a bike. It's a motor skill, right? Obviously, we know that we're not going to use lecture, but that doesn't mean lecture is bad. It's just lecture has no real place in teaching something that requires motor skills, right? So be the good instructor, you know, be that professional in everything that you guys do. All right, in conclusion, be clear, be fair, be a role model, mentor, professional, and of course, be an inspiration to others. If you can't do that, you're probably not either A, in the instructor realm for the right reason, all right? But if you can do that, not only will you probably get a little bit more gratification or satisfaction, but you're going to have a better product when it comes to your students. As an instructor, or as just an AFF instructor especially, I love boring skydives. Why? Because they're uneventful. Why else? Because I did all the work on the ground. Okay? Does that mean I'm not good enough to go head down and catch a student that decided to roll over and, you know, in their mind, who knows, they were probably singing head, shoulders, knees and toes, and then, you know, they just go over for some strange reason. I really don't know. All right? Yeah, I'm good enough to go get them because, you know, I've done the training and everything else, but why? At that point, am I just trying to prove that I can do it? No, I don't want to. I want that boring jump. I want to spend the time on the ground with that clear expectation, with that proper training, all right, with them knowing they understand what I'm giving or teaching or doing. That's where I want to be as an instructor. All right, I want to have all the boring jumps because I set it up properly. All right, we all get rushed. We all get this. We all get that. All right. There are some times where, yes, I'm like, oh, you know what? This doesn't really have to do directly with the skydive. Let's get that back on the ground. We'll do that later on. Okay? Not a problem. But you got to follow up with it. All right? Wherever you guys are in your program that does the formal academics, make sure you catch up on it. Make sure you do that ask me, show me, tell me. Don't ask a question that's a yes or no that you can ask them to explain, and don't have them explain a question that they can show you to prove that they have learned whatever the material is. All right? Watch your egos. Something as simple as, I got this. All right? At that point, where are we really hurting or hindering the situation? The pocketbook or the wallet or the money of the passenger? Again, sorry. Student of whatever reasons, all right? Or, you know, it's like, oh, I get to do another jump. Yeah, but can they afford another jump? Teach them properly and set them up for success prior to. Another one, which I really won't get too far into because I'm running at the time, which is okay, and I want to give you guys an opportunity for questions. Something as simple as talking on the radio. How many times have I instructed someone, they have a plan, they briefed me on the plan. I even, you know, put the left brain with the right brain, made it autonomous, all that kind of stuff. Learning has occurred by saying, hey, that traffic pattern, what would happen if you landed way out and you know you can't get back? That student's like, easy. I'm going to take that same traffic pattern. I'm going to implement it in an area utilizing my, you know, landing priorities. Land in an open area free and clear of obstructions, a level wing over my head, land, or, you know, at least 50% of brakes, be prepared to PLF. Hopefully that's the same as you guys. If it's not, it is what it is. That's your SBA. All right? I said nothing about landing into the wing because I don't want them feeling like they have to do that, low to the ground and having to turn, because we can land a canopy, crosswind, in the wind, downwind, whatever. That's why we teach them the other things. Most importantly, canopy over the top of the head, right? But they showed me this and they drew me a pattern. Okay, everything's great. Now what do I do with the radio? Hey, that was an awesome skydive. All right, give me some brakes or turn. Okay, great. Come in the pattern. Hey, turn left. All right, now turn a little bit right. Now do, okay, yeah, no, oh, you see me? Right, yeah, there you go. Come right to me. Slow down a little bit. What am I doing? I'm talking them exactly to where I want them to be. That's not what we taught. That's not what we practice. Why am I going to change something that they're doing because I don't want to walk as far. Oh, I didn't want to land in the student area, so I landed closer to here. But if you really don't want to walk as far, here's a novelty of an idea. Land in the student area. Then you don't have to walk out to them and walk back, because I'm sure, especially as beginning students, we want to meet them, right? Have that walk and talk, all that kind of stuff, encouragement, blah, 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 blah. Show them how to actually gather their gear, whatever. But if they're not doing anything wrong under canopy, why are we going to correct them? Because that, kind of starts to create confusion. Did I do something wrong? Did I not do something wrong? What do I do? And I really hate to say what I do is, but what I like to try to see others, do is right on opening, hey, great skydive, right? And I also know that you guys have someone on the ground to where if the instructor's still in the air talking to students, phenomenal, right? But what I like to do when I don't have that availability, land on the ground, identify them and everything, hey, great skydive, all right? Hey, go ahead and give me a left turn or a right turn, click your heels, go in brakes. I'm telling them whatever I need them to do so I can identify them. That's it. And when I identify them, that also secures that I know that we have two-way communication. Okay, great. Hey, go ahead and just do as we had planned. If you need something, or if I feel like I need to, say something, I'll say it then. And of course, I tell them this on the ground because I want to wait till they didn't clear their ears or the battery went dead or something, for them to, so we know this. This is a pre-planned thing. But I'm just reminding them. And then when they start in their pattern, if they're doing things correctly, I encourage them, hey, looking good, man, awesome turn, whatever. But I also know their altitudes. I also know the limiting factor, because in that training, it's like, hey, our guidance or our guideline is maybe 1,000 feet downwind, 600 or 500 base, 250 or 3 final, right? Those numbers, guidelines, right? But I give them a limiting feature as well. So that way when there's confusion, that limiting feature, hey, around 500 feet, we're going to make our base, or that tree line. That tree line is your limiting factor. Regardless of what altitude, you need to turn by that tree line. So they know what's going on. I also know if they turn way too soon, let them kind of go, see what they do, see do they arc it out a little bit, or what they do in the bottom end to try to, are they just going to land long? Or do I need to intervene? It's like, hey, that was a great turn, good base, but you turned a little bit too soon. All right? But as experience for us, we need to know about what altitude they're at. We need to know, the traffic pattern that we taught them, the traffic pattern that they plan on doing. All right? So just a couple things simple like that. But again, that clear expectations. Inspire them to not only do better, but sometimes when it comes to adults, you're not really going to inspire me unless you give me a reason as to why. All right? So with students, that's something. But for you guys as tandem instructors, you guys tandem. Who's a tandem instructor in here? Yes, I didn't just speak that out of turn. Okay, so AFF instructors. How many of you guys are examiners? Raise your hand. Okay, so we have a couple. All right? So these are things that we want to make sure other AFF instructors or just student instructors, because it could be IED, it could be static line or whatever, all right? Sometimes, having that clear expectation, or sometimes having that cultural where the drop zone wants to do it one way, but you guys are like, hey, this is the better way. Or it's like, I'm not saying it's better than you, I am, however, saying it's different in a better way. Whatever, all right? But have that conversation, have that whatever with the student or with that fellow instructor. Make sure you're on the same sheet of music. Make sure you're able to give those clear expectations. Any questions? Wait. Any questions? Anyone at all? Okay. I greatly appreciate your guys' time. I know that I think I went like 3 minutes over. I do apologize because, either you have to skip the bathroom now to get, quick into that line for food or whatever. But I do appreciate it. And hopefully, again, you guys do think about, it sparks the energy. It sparks your guys' thought process. And more importantly, whether you bring questions to me or anything like that, challenge everything I said, but challenge it to your guys' doctrine, your guys' program and challenge it amongst each other as to what you guys do, or just better ways that, again, it's not necessarily a wrong way, because, 6 plus 3 equals 9, but so does 5 plus 4. So does, 12 minus 3. So whatever it is your major focus is of getting to 9, 9 being doctrine and the student, help each other get to that desired result. I appreciate your guys' time.